Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy here, for nerds by nerds, hanging out with some of my crew.
I'm Ted.
I'm Nate.
And today we're going to talk about player characters and that are in positions of power and have influence for a Game Master's tip series.
So the reason this kind of came up is, looking at, as players advance, different things happen. Sometimes you wind up getting a title or some kind of job as a reward. You might have as part of your backstory that you're either a noble or that you work for a certain establishment, or there's all these other things that are going on and how that's going to influence the actual play in the area that you're in. So,
all right. Well, I would say I'm glad you mentioned noble, because I would say noble is probably one of the easiest ways to have an increase in your sphere of influence, or how you can affect the world without your magic or your sword.
Right.
And from more like a political or role-playing standpoint, because it gives you a buy-in to all the other nobles. I mean, you say, hey, I'm sending a letter to this guy that's in this town because he's the highest ranked person here and he's a noble of some court, or he's the mayor or some other town official, and be like, oh, I'm from the noble house such and such, I'm like their third son or whatever. Like, oh, great, we're so glad to see you here. Butt kiss, butt kiss. That's what kind of that whole like.
So, like, as a background, that can start. It starts right from the beginning.
Yeah, it's like boom, I've got influence.
And the other one that's kind of like that is also the guild artisan.
Yeah,
like you actually like in that one. Actually, you actually have to pay for every month to stay to keep up on your dues.
But they can sometimes keep you out of jail.
yeah, but they'll actually, like, if you're accused of a crime and they don't think you did it, they'll defend you. So there's different things like that. Your monk in my character a million years ago, became the mayor of the town. I don't even remember how he became the mayor. It might have even
my
been
battle prowess plus.
Well, no, wasn't it like
everyone else step back?
Like, no, I think it was like we had saved some refugees. Nate was like something was going on out in the real world, and he kind of stepped out of the actual game. So I think you just set him up to like, okay, well, you guys are building a town here,
and you're overseeing it.
You're just overseeing it, and they're like, oh, we love this guy. He helped us out. You're in charge, and it just kind of.
I was a very charismatic monk too, so I don't know why I had a higher charisma than normal.
Well, because you didn't put anything into your strength.
Yeah.
Well, no, because those characters we didn't pick where the scores went.
Oh, that's right.
They just played them where they landed.
That's why I was a charismatic monk.
I was a fighter cleric with that 18 intelligence.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It was one of those campaigns.
See, it was so long ago. We're slowly digging up with the actual memories.
You came back to the campaign later on. And and you were still the mayor, so there were still things going on.
Yeah, there's still stuff to do.
Because I think you're already the mayor once you knocked out the ogres.
No, I think that happened early in the game.
Yeah, I seem to think it like.
Well, when I leapt off the wall and punched some guy out.
No, you leapt off the one ogre's knee, punched him in the face, used the momentum off of his body to go knock out the other ogre.
Okay.
It was like one round, you knocked them both out. It was pretty impressive.
Nice. See, I rely on Ted to remember the combat.
Well, that particular thing is something that I've remembered because it is so well. It's back in second edition when they actually had the KO percentage.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, I think you had.
Yeah, it's not.
It was your Ben Bars lift gates.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do.
And you had like an 8 strength, so it was totally like, yeah, this is like an 8.
You had to roll like under 5% twice or something.
I think
ridiculous.
It was 8, but I'll pull out a second edition PHP at some point in time.
What was that?
The odds were not in my favor, but I did it.
No, but you totally rocked it. It's like, damn, that's impressive.
So all right. So two of the backgrounds kind of start off with, already, you're tied into an organization.
Mm-hmm.
In the game we're running now, we have Ryan's character, Lyndon the Halfling, who is a member of the Thieves Guild,
right?
And he's a fourth level character now, or third level character.
He's fourth.
So he's kind of prominent, and he's accomplished some things. He started a business.
And
he has employees.
He has employees that
are also thieves.
Are also thieves. He's the only upstanding hero of the town.
Yes,
he has actually been presented a medal and not been accused of murder. And he's now running for mayor. So as a GM, because I'm running that game, it's like, all right, what kind of requirements is it really going to take for him to be the mayor, be in the Thieves Guild, have this business? Is he going to be able to be an adventurer? Like,
yeah, is there going to be time? And if not, what kind of stories would you have to build around it to actually keep that character in play?
So, I mean, I don't want to force him into retirement, and I don't want to take away, the option if he wants to try and be mayor. But looking at it, it's like, all right, well, as a GM, how do I handle the situation? What issues?
Are you GM 911 in us?
No. I mean, if left to my own devices,
this video closes down and another one opens up.
Yeah,
I could certainly figure things out. But as fellow GMs, what do you see as potential problems? Do you see it as a potential problem? Just seeing what you guys think.
Well, it kind of is, because I guess a town isn't going to want their mayor going out adventuring.
Yeah,
I mean, it does create difficulty.
There are a lot of times in towns where mayors isn't a full-time position. You're more like town speaker, or like the guy, like when everybody's got a problem, it's like, we have a dispute, let's talk to Bob. But this is the city of Griffin-Gaff, so it's kind of like a full-time gig, I would think.
It could be. Well, maybe one of the things he does is institutes a council,
a lieutenant mayor or a council. Yeah.
No, I'd see more like a council that that like representatives from different parts of the town, because they just have a problem with what happens if there's no mayor, who's going to govern us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that would kind of free up his time. It makes interesting new dynamics for political intrigues.
And he could totally say, well, what if the mayor's corrupt again? Like he is secretly, but
yeah. What if the next mayor turns out to be another town leaf blade,
or the Thieves Guild leader or something?
Yeah,
not that could ever be me, Yeah, so I can see a lot of problems. That would be a great thing. Put a little fear in the people, like, oh yeah, I mean, we trust Lyndon, but what about the next guy? So instituting some kind of council, especially if he gets all the, all of the little activist groups, like you have like the different lobbies for different things, like
I need to have someone that's a member of the blood cultists, of course, right?
Secretly, yeah, I'm sure someone will make it in there.
Yeah.
But you could have the guildsmen, the different trades,
right?
Kind of like someone to represent from
so
the
like
craftsmen.
This is just like one example, right? But like we can dial out a little bit too. And like in my campaign, again, Ryan's character is actually attached to this enclave of knowledge,
mm-hmm.
who he works directly under a mentor with, because he's now trapped and away from that. But the enclave at the Citadel, that's a whole nother organization itself, which would have different political intrigues. People would have different influences, as well as different objectives. So it just enters more dynamics into the game, and with the more each player is invested in your world, the chances are there's going to be things like this that pop up.
Mm-hmm.
You're affiliated with the Elven Library in that campaign, mm-hmm. as well. So, it's a two-way street. Like, it gives you the advantage of being able to go there, go through their books, talk to people. But then at the same time, it also makes you beholden to them, mm-hmm. and obligated. So it becomes a two-way street. The Gobelows, they have a patron, who's actually called on you guys in the past, right. and you guys have helped her out. And actually right now the Gobelows are probably staying in her house, because where they used to live got burned down mysteriously. But even still, and they had a job, like when they weren't adventuring, they're performers that work in a tavern.
Right.
Like, and that in itself, okay, there isn't a whole lot of power that goes with that. But
they could have, admirers or people that, are looking out for them.
They can hear things. There's, they're going to have influence over people. They're going to have influence over their employer. Their employer is going to have influence over them.
Mm-hmm.
So, all these little power centers start to spring up in your game. And they just create interesting dynamics for you to use as a game master. Either they prod them towards adventures, or perhaps they prod you as a game master to writing certain adventures, because now they're showing interest in certain things,
right.
based off of these.
So every little place that you can draw inspiration from and get tools from what your players have written or have done, as far as either backstory or things that happen in game or in between events, all of these things can inspire your campaign or inspire story arcs.
Like, look at the Gith game that's going on in Andrew Knapp's over at SR2 Joker's channel, Andrew Knapp. That is all about power structures, and where you fall into the power structure, and always trying to be at a higher position in the power structure, in order to have more influence and be able to tell people what to do and garner better treatment, or or in the case where you actually garner more ire, or you're told what to do, or you have to take commands from everyone.
Right.
So, so you have different dynamics like that, or in just in a general game where maybe you're granted a barony, which has happened in Scott's game.
Right.
And in the, we have characters in another campaign of his that are helping to find lands for the cat folk, and they're going to build a nation there. Well, what's to say that again, we aren't offered positions of power or lands for our service,
right?
Like my character is going to have a cat folk wife, so so like I'm going to have ties there, and I probably will stay there in some fashion or another.
Well, that particular game is being written as like, I think, a 6-part miniseries, so it's going to have a set finality or set final, set end, whatever the word is. So therefore it's easy for that story arc to end and for your character to retire where his, wife of choice is going to be. It's very easy for, all the characters in that game to be like, okay, well, you can set up, here in Thracion or here in, or whatever, not remembering the names, but there's 2 different continents, if we're trying to find land in one and we're, a person of power in the old, it's very easy for us to be able to, set up wherever we want.
Well, here's the thing. Like, say you have a cleric in your game, and say said cleric goes into an area where his religion is not.
Right.
What does that cleric probably want to do if he stays in that area?
He's gonna start a church of his god.
He wants to build a church. It might start off as like Bible study, and in the tavern during the day when no one's there. They rent the space, and maybe eventually he buys a little house, and then he moves it to there, and then and then they start raising funds, and they start building a small church, and the church gets bigger. Goes from a church to a temple.
And then when he's 70 and the elder cleric of the whole religion in that section.
But he's building a power base and a sphere of influence. And generally clerics or religious folk, they want to spread their religion, and they have their own agenda.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, they're going to have that agenda, and they're going to push it. So there is a lot of room in any given game for characters to start amassing these positions of power and influence, and it can and again it can start really small. Like a fighter might just become like a captain of the watch. That's something you definitely see happening in a game. You could start off where you have more martial type characters in a city, and they start off as like the sewer cleaners. Their job is to make sure there's no rats on rats.
The giant rat killers.
Yeah. And an occasional crocodile, and they could move up through the ranks of that organization, and it might do such a good job that they finally get out of the sewers. So there's so many different places in a campaign to find these positions of powers for your players to get involved in if they want to.
Right.
And then some people never will. They just want to kick in the door and kill the monster, take its stuff.
And they can go carousing. They can roll the dice and go carousing while everyone else is doing mayor stuff and running their business. And
well, they could. What if and that makes me think of another thing, because of one of the characters that did that is, what if you have a druid and he's attached to a druid order and he wants to raise their, in the first edition, like gaining the levels was part of it. And matter of fact, you got to a certain point, you had to actually fight for those levels. Like there were only X amount of this type of druid. And
that's right.
If you wanted to get that to that next level, that position,
the hero found, you
had to fight the guy that had it in a duel.
Wow.
And you couldn't advance any further in your class until you beat him. So, and you could absolutely institute something like that. Not necessarily holding levels from people, but like in an organization, there might be rules like that. Like only the best can hold that position.
Right.
Look at look at the books where Wolfgar goes to slay Icing Death the dragon just for the right to challenge the chieftain of his tribe to be chief.
Blood or by deed.
Yeah. So he cheated, but what are you gonna do?
He killed the dragon.
He had help.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Yeah, spoiler alert.
If you haven't read Icing Dale by now, come on.
Yeah, if you haven't read that book from 20 years ago, sorry. I get with each decade that goes by, I get less sympathetic.
I understand. I'm just messing.
Oh yeah, spoiler alert.
So I think this one's been voted to a close.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys are going to have a lot of great stuff to put in the comments below while you're at it. Like, subscribe, and even share.
You also check out the interesting content on our Nerdarchy channel.com.
Nerdarchychannel.com.
Nerdarchy.com.
Yeah.
I swear that's what I just said. It's fine.
Nice.
You can patronize us in a good way. Go check out our Patreon account. Even $1 will go a long way.
Until next time,
stay nerdy.
For a million years ago, became the mayor of the town. I don't even remember how he became the mayor. It might have even
been battle prowess plus.
Well, no, wasn't it like
everyone else stepped back?
No, I think it was like we had saved some refugees. Nate was like something was going on out in the real world, and he kind of stepped out of the actual game. So I think you just set him up to like, okay, well, you guys are building a town here.
And you're overseeing it.
You're just overseeing it, and they're like, "Oh, we love this guy. He helped us out. You're in charge." Players advance. Different things happen. Sometimes you wind up getting a title or some kind of job as a reward. You might have as part of your backstory that you're either a noble or that you work for a certain establishment. Or there's all these other things that are going on and how that's going to influence the actual play in the area that you're in. So,
all right. Well, I would say I'm glad you mentioned noble, because I would say noble is probably one of the easiest ways to have an increase in your sphere of influence, or how you can affect the world without your magic or your sword.
Right.
And from more like a political role playing standpoint, because it gives you a buy-in to all the other nobles. I mean, you say, hey, I'm sending a letter to this guy that's in this town because he's the highest ranked person here and he's a noble of some court, or he's the mayor or some other town official, and be like, oh, I'm from the noble house such and such. I'm like their third son or whatever. Like, oh, great. We're so glad to see you here. Butt kiss, butt kiss. That's what kind of.
Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy here, for nerds by nerds, hanging out with some of my crew.
I'm Ted.
I'm Nate.
And today we're going to talk about player characters and that are in positions of power and have influence for a Game Master's Tip series.
So the reason this kind of came up is looking at as play
of that whole
So like as a
works.
Background that can start, it starts right from the beginning.
Yeah, it's like, boom, I've got influence.
And the other one that's kind of like that is also the guild artisan.
Yeah.
Like you actually, like in that one, actually you actually have to pay for every month to stay to keep up on your dues.
But they can sometimes keep you out of jail.
yeah, but they'll actually, like, if you're accused of a crime and they don't think you did it, they'll defend you. So there's different things like that. Your monk and my character